What is up, Rotogrinders? Dean here. That's Dean, 7904. That is daily fantasy handle around the industry. Of course, it is 5:10 on the East Coast, 2:10 West Coast, 4:10 Tennessee time. So for the very last time, this is the time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. Last time this season, last time this year in 2021, which is specify we're not going anywhere. Rotogrinders is still a thing to the best of my knowledge. Yeah, it's the flagship show going down. We're going to be starting with a three-man booth, not messing around, going out with a bang. Let's bring in our returning champion from last night. It's Justin Carlucci. What's going on, dude? How are things in your world? This is our last chance, Justin, to either get yourself in a position to pay the tax man or lose some money to pay a little less than a tax man. So there you go.
Yeah, great night. Serge Ibaka chalk night. What could go wrong? I wouldn't want to end the year on a different note than just Serge Ibaka everywhere. So it's perfect. I don't know. What was I the champion of? I barely cashed some props, but we'll take it. Well, going back. Default,
I mean, yeah, nobody. It was just me and you. So like by default, yeah, you're the returning champion. You played against nobody. It was you versus the field. I'm not really sure, but yeah, last night was fine for me yesterday too. It was okay.
Brutal slate.
Okoro was my big issue, and the Denzel Valentine one got us because he was traded for Rajon Rondo. That was, I guess like not months later, but hours later we found out about that. That's the only thing that made sense, and that's what happened this morning. Let's bring in Kirk Dees. 7-game slate, a lot to talk about. We'll break it down in a second, game by game. What up, YouTube? Do hit that like button, do subscribe, do turn on the notifications, all that stuff. You guys want to ask your questions today, as always. Where are you asking the questions? There's no YouTube chat right now. What's going on? Well, you go in the Discord channel, and we're trying to entice you all to join the Discord channel. How do you go about doing that? Rotogrinders.com/Discord, the live stream chat. Ask your questions there. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as possible. Devin is compiling those. We'll knock them out end of show. And just like yesterday, today, we are going to give away 1 week free of RG Premium to just one random person that partakes in the conversation, that joins us here on Discord. Entice you all over, have at it. There are premium channels, of course, in our Discord channel. This one happens to be a free channel, just like Chiefs Prop Shop happens to be a free for anyone channel. All right. Kirk Dees, give us like 30 seconds or a minute or so on your experience. You got to watch the Peyton Pritchard chalk night just blow up in everybody's faces live and in person in the front row. You almost pulled. We talked Curb in the pre-show. You almost pulled a Larry David. You might as well have tripped. Just like Larry David tripped Shaq.
Totally could have. What I was also thinking, I was like, I could pull off a streak. Go streak. I don't think people streak NBA games, but that was talked about. But anyways, what the biggest news is I'm on COVID protocol for close contact with Ty Lue. So I was really upset to see Ty Lue go on there because he blocked my view for about 30 to 40% of the game, whether he was like right next to me or in front of me. And we were chatting it up a lot during the game because I had gotten his good side. I made him laugh with a little joke and he liked it. And from there, I was in. But I'm happy to be ringing in the New Year's with our RG, you guys, and Floors Mark 83 and Hammer 74 woofing. Happy to be here.
Likewise, yeah. Buckle up. There's a lot of news that has dropped. Of course, more news will drop throughout the show. There's been games playing throughout the day. I'm sure y'all have noticed, like a 1 o'clock game and a 3 o'clock game. I think there's a game at 6 o'clock. Of course, we're talking the main slate here, the main slate on DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo. We got Kid Yahoo right here. Is there anything we should say as far as, the overall thought process as far as this slate here, Justin, or it's just like dive right on in, break it down game by game? There's several games that, like the Portland Laker game, looks like it could be absolutely awesome. Pretty clear who we want to roster there. And there's some value that can kind of open stuff up. You have any sort of 30,000 foot view as far as the slate do you want to throw out there before we get going and dive in, break it down game by game?
No, I mean, in terms of just like 60-point upside guys, we have LeBron, who is projecting really, really well, and nothing against Dame and Trey and Ja's been exceptional lately with a lot of bodies missing on Memphis. They've been fantastic, but some slates, it's like we have a wealth of riches and like LeBron and Giannis and Kat and Jokic and Embiid, but not a ton of mega star power, but there's a lot of guys in higher usage role situations, and of course that's been interesting for the prop betting world. And of course, if you're following me or Grant or whoever, we're going back to the Desmond Bain train tonight, which is he's been a printing press lately. So the Grizzlies are good, man. They're fun. I can't wait to talk about them.
Yeah, they're, if nothing else, I'm not sure how good they are, right? But if nothing else, they're a fun team to watch for sure. More fun when like Ja and Bain can get going and like Dylan Brooks isn't throwing up all his shots. Nothing against Dylan Brooks, but not my favorite player to watch in the league. You got anything, Kirk, as far as what you want to focus on, or that's worth pointing out before you dive in and break it down game by game?
Not really. Just break it down game by game, go from there. We'll identify some good spots. I will say that Serge Ibaka looked absolutely pathetic when he was on the court in that Boston game that I went to. And it's hard to imagine, him having a big minutes upside tonight, but he is so cheap. They don't really have many other players. I understand it, but sounds like a good spot to fade, in my opinion, for tournaments.
Yeah, something to monitor there. We're not sure. We're projecting he's going to start tonight. We'll talk about that when we get there as far as the Clippers. But I do think that can potentially be a little bit fragile, but I understand why he is popping in models as well. All right, very first game on the slate. Only one game, just one game at 7 o'clock. Sometimes I like to skip those games. I don't think we can do that tonight because it's Miami versus Houston. 218.5 is the total. Miami, despite the fact of how they've been ravaged with COVID and all sorts of issues, they're still 4-point favorites against Houston. That's because Houston is terrible. Houston also pretty healthy. They're getting Tate back. Matthews is still out. Martin is available as well, too, or at least he's cleared the protocols. I'm not sure about conditioning. I don't want to speak on that, but I presume Martin's going to be available. Basically, Houston is very healthy outside of Matthews and Augustin. Everybody else is available. As far as I can tell, the Miami side, of course, is a totally different conversation. Duncan Robinson is not available. Even like a lot of their fringe guys like Max Strus and Gabe Vincent and, of course, PJ Tucker and their big man and Deadman and Adebayo and Markieff Morris still has yet to recover from the push from our boy Jokic. Big one, though, is Lowry being available to come back tonight. And Jimmy Butler is the other one that's kind of a big deal. And he is questionable. He's legit questionable. Like, if you watch that last game, he had to take a minute or two to get his free throws up. He turned his ankle, and if you don't get your free throws up on a foul, you're just pulled from the game. And he did stick it out, and but he was injured. He was for real hurt. So maybe they hold him back tonight. We'll see. And maybe the presence of Lowry doesn't mean they won't have to force Butler. In any event, Butler is something we're going to be monitoring. That can definitely affect the Miami projections. It will affect the projections there for Miami for sure. And then they have Mario Chalmers back, which is amazing. Sauce Castillo, Chris Silva, all the old Miami guys are coming back. The Kyle Guy, who's literally, a Jag. He's just a guy. Kyle Art Holman, doesn't matter. All right, I'm going to throw it to you, Kirk Dees, as far as the Miami side. Miami, I think there's a clear focus in this game. Lowry is back. Of course, Butler, we don't know. I'm not really sure which way we're projecting on him just yet. I'm going to pull it up. But what are your thoughts as far as Miami and how appealing is that value? I suppose we can start with Yerk 7, who's, priced up, but probably the correct price.
Yeah, or a little bit too cheap, to be honest. So the first thing that stands out to me is that this is a low, Heat are low favorites, 3.5-point favorites against Houston. And we know that these Houston games, when they play competitively, are just as juicy as all can be. And we saw that the other night when they played the Lakers, when Russ and LeBron just, went absolutely nuclear. So, they give up tons of stats, tons of opponent blocks, tons of steals. They're 30th in steals, 28th in opponent blocks per game, 25th in opponent made threes. They play at the 4th fastest pace. They're 30th in defensive rating. The Heat this is a great matchup. And then now everybody's missing. So yes, I like all these guys. If Butler's out, I mean, these guys are like the lock of all locks, right? When you say like Kyle, I mean, the only thing we have to worry about is Kyle Lowry. So that's the other thing is these people coming off, he's coming off of protocols, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, we don't know, remember we were debating, we didn't know what to do if Nick Nurse was going to Nick Nurse and play his guys 40 minutes
and mess around.
And Nick nursed. He did what he does. And, and after the fact, we should have been heavier on that. But we don't really know what Lowry's going to do, but I'm assuming that he's just going to be back playing a ton of minutes. But Yurt 7 is going to be too cheap. He's impressed me with the way he's played. He's versatile. He's got some offensive game to him. He makes good passes. He's like a totally poor man's Jokic a little bit, but but he's enough to give us some good fantasy nights against the Rockets. I'll tell you that. And then there's Caleb Martin is going to get just a ton of minutes, but the real plays, Tyler Hero is going to just get bucket after bucket in this game, in my opinion. So all these guys are in play, and if Butler included, if he does play, but if Butler's out, these guys are like locks.
Pascal Siakam played 42 minutes back. And the other tricky part is there's no way to quantify it, is certain players are coming back from COVID, hindered to some degree, and some are just thriving. Like we saw Beal last night was phenomenal. Different sport, but Tyler Lockett, talk about how winded he was. Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill. Allen Robinson, I think, lost 10 pounds. We don't know. And there's really, I don't know how you put that in projections. Right now, we're currently projecting Butler in for what it's worth. 36 minutes for Butler, Lowry 35, 32 for Hero, Yurt 7 for 33, and Martin for 34. And then we just have Guy and Holman. We're projecting a pretty tight rotation. And obviously, if Butler steps back, that really will open stuff up. The usage will bump up guys like Hero even more. Caleb Martin specifically on DK at 4.3K looks like a pretty appealing price. He's not like this guy's going to go out and put up 50, but it's really hard to see him hurting you at 4.3, especially if Butler doesn't play. Jump in here, Justin, as far as the Miami side. And, Butler's 10K, but assuming we're getting standard run-of-the-mill Butler against Houston with the situation Miami's in, that's still a price I'm willing to pay.
Yeah, I don't mind that call. I think he'd make for an interesting tournament play. Butler matters quite a bit for some of these other guys, in my opinion. Can Martin still be good at 4,300? Yeah, the absence of Duncan Robinson definitely matters too. But Butler's potential absence, I think, could make Martin from a average to above average play to a guy who would have a mega ceiling at 4,300. So, good thing this is an early New Year's Eve gift, that this is an early game, so we'll know the status of Butler. Yurt 7's role won't change. Obviously, there's no Adebayo, and what's the other guy who stinks is out too, Deadman. So, there's a big void to fill, and he's been really good per minute, Kirk. Like you were saying, he might still be too cheap. It's just a little bit of a sticker shock to see a guy most of the world's never heard of 3 weeks ago be almost 6K, but he's been super good, and I like Yurt 7 regardless of Butler's status. And Hero gives you a super high floor. Now, if Butler's in, what are your guys' thoughts on Hero if Butler's in?
He's just still fine. Like he's still going to play 30 plus minutes, right?
I still like him regardless. He's gonna chuck. The shooter's gonna shoot, and that's what he does. And they need the scoring, and he'll be the go-to scorer.
You mentioned Yurt 7 on the season. He's averaging 1.07 DK points per minute. Caleb Martin averaging 0.82. And I like to run the court IQ stuff, but the on-off, this guy, but it's really hard to do with Miami pieces because there's so many guys on, so many guys off, and the samples you get are probably not going to be terribly useful. This feels like a spot where you can kind of use your brain and just figure who's going to get the usage here. Do we care about the fringe guys here, Kirk Dees? Or maybe we care about them to some degree if Butler doesn't play? Does a guy like Kyle Guy become interesting, or we're just worried about Lowry, Hero, Yurt 7, and Martin mostly?
Yeah, it's. I mean, we should care because there's just not many bodies, right? Like, so if
Yeah.
Butler's out, it's like I think we have to care a little bit. Is Kyle gonna ship you a GPP? I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't really know. I certainly don't have anything to say about Haywood Highsmith. You got any?
Awesome
you got any,
name.
you got
That
any
one is
intel?
made up. I do not believe that guy is real.
You got any
I
intel
got
on
nothing.
him?
And I think was just like a 2K creative player someone threw in there to get the game in tonight.
But he might play like 25 minutes or whatever. If Butler doesn't play, like that could happen. And I don't think he's in the pool on DK. I think he's in the FanDuel pool for the record. I just want to double check that. Yeah,
Well, we can talk about Eric Holman, who was playing G League for the Spurs.
Okay, yeah. What do you want to say about him?
Just I don't know. Just mention his name. It's all.
Acknowledge his existence.
Get that out there. Yeah.
Just we said his name, man. Now if he wins a tournament, somebody better thank you on Twitter.
Yeah. So, of course.
Is that how that works?
It should work that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'm serious. I think there's a very real chance that Butler doesn't play this game. Like I think it's legit. Miami's got their eyes on playoffs. They don't care about a game against Houston.
And they already announced Lowry in. That's a good. Obviously, but it is an ankle, so that like they're gonna do the whole. We'll see how he feels pregame and warmups. But you're right. I'm thinking there's a really good chance he doesn't play.
Well,
I was hoping we had a. Oh, go ahead.
I said all three of us are in agreement. That was my gut feeling that he's probably not going to play. So you know what happens on national TV when all three people agree on something? The reverse outcome typically. We might have mushed that or whatever you guys call it. So I don't think
he probably wants to play, but they're not going to let him play. That's probably
on national TV. We on national TV? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, didn't you know
we're on international if you think about it. You could watch YouTube on TV. You could do that. There's technology these days.
I dressed up
like
for
Google
this.
Stick or a smart TV.
We're on Mark Flores's TV right now, and we're on
there you go.
74's TV. Where are they from?
I'm glad I shaved.
Lip 5's got us put on in the TV.
We're
worldwide, man. We're worldwide.
I never really watch a YouTube on TV. You guys do that? I don't really. I don't. I mean, I have it on my laptop or my phone, but like I guess I can. It's just a couple extra steps. I got the PlayStation. I can watch it through that, but I don't know. Is that maybe I'm missing out? Is that any better on TV?
I've done it sometimes when I'm getting ready at my computer and I threw it on the YouTube on the TV. So I had it like playing in the background while I've been doing certain, projection stuff that I do. But yeah, I think some people do.
I saw your side profile shot. You just got a fresh fade, didn't you?
Oh yeah, that was for the game. So I could have.
Yeah.
I was also. That's another. I was a little worried about picking up COVID doing that too.
You're big on the fresh haircut narrative, though. Are you gonna win something tonight?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hoping. Although this haircut did not work. I have lost a major sports bet yesterday. I had Tennessee huge on the money line, and that was not good.
You got anything as far as the bowl games, the national championship going on with Alabama?
Chop, you got to ask Chop. Chop's been great, but he gives me his three best plays for yesterday. But I had to, I have to drive to New Hampshire and sit in a rest stop to, it takes me like an hour, almost like 45 minutes to get there and 45 minutes to come home. And so I got to get these in. And so I had to do it, like make the most of it. And so I just hammered the first one, which was his play. Now every other game he ended up winning, but I was crushed after just taking his early play.
Shout out to New Hampshire, live free or die. Houston's playing this basketball game too, Carlucci. I don't love anything on the Houston side. Like they're playing, if you want to like have a little bit of a game stack, and the game stack becomes a little more interesting if Butler doesn't play. The defense becomes a little bit worse if Butler doesn't play. Yeah, talking about the Houston side, is anybody appealing for you?
Not really. Now that Tate is back, we have Eric Gordon back, Kevin Porter back. Those are, we were used to seeing DJ Augustine and some of these other guys in there, but there's more of the usage guys on this team. So it's a little tougher to want to play somebody in this matchup. I totally understand if you want to run a little game stack, like you said, but for the most part, I'm looking elsewhere. Christian Wood has just constantly disappointed me during this stretch where, all his other, sidekicks were out at one point or another, and he should have had this high usage game, and like he just won't score the basketball this year. I don't know why. He's a monster and a great talent. He rebounds really well, but I was waiting for that like 30 plus real point game at one point or another. We just haven't seen it from him. So I'm for the most part out on the Houston side of things for the most part.
Curtis?
I have a kind of a different approach. So like if this game, and I said this the other night too, and I think when we last did our show, it was the night they played the Lakers. No one really wanted to play Kevin Porter Jr., right? And me and Stevie both liked them. And the reason being is that, first of all, if you just think about this Miami team, if Butler doesn't play, just think about the defense, the defensive lineup on that team that they're going to be going against, right? So you got
no Bam as well.
You got a fast-paced team with a bunch of gunners who aren't very efficient, but can have put up monster games. And so if we're playing some Heat guys, run it back for sure with Kevin Porter Jr. or Jalen Green, because Jalen Green's price at least is nice at 4,900 on DK, and you can get that same kind of upside. Yeah, it's a little tougher with Kevin Porter Jr.'s price. Still think he's in play, but I think we can get a lot out of Jalen Green. Christian Wood, it's just the price is too high. I mean, you could see a good game from him, but I'd rather just go with Jalen or Kevin Porter and a bunch of Heat guys.
Yeah, I think Jalen Green's price is really good, and the fact that we saw a big 38-minute spot in the game log there was really encouraging to see. So I do like Jalen Green more than probably anybody else too.
The Wood price is better on FanDuel for the record, as opposed to like DK. Like he's almost like 1K cheaper. So I think if you're going to do that, it's more appealing on FanDuel. Of course, the ownership will reflect that, but I still don't think he's going to be heavily owned over there. All right, let's move on. I was hoping to get a what if on the what if Jimmy Butler was out, but we did not have a what if on that, unfortunately. Maybe we'll get one throughout the day, or maybe we'll get the news soon enough. And just
what's he gonna do? Say Haywood High. What's the guy's name again?
Haywood Jeffries.
Haywood Hightower, was it, or something?
I think it's Highsmith, I want to say.
Yeah, Haywood Highsmith's gonna be. What do you what if him up to?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like I'm just thinking like where those minutes go, and the usage obviously is going to shuffle too. And the Lowry runs is really tricky, like because again, who knows? And was he in the protocols? Was he a close contact? Did he have COVID? Did he not have COVID? Was that clarified? Does that matter? I don't know, man. But that stuff can be fragile with certain players, and you never really know. And he's like an energy guy too. Lowry, he's like he uses he's aggressive, but whatever. We'll move on. Well, let's talk about the Clippers. Oh, that's the next game we want to talk about, right? Clippers and the Raptors. 210.5 is the total. Toronto is a 7-point favorite. The Clippers, they do have Zubac out. That's why we're talking about the potential of Ibaka, chalk. Not just Zubac, but they're without Hartenstein too. So two of their bigs are not playing. Of course, Paul George is still hurt. They're still without Batum. They're still without Boston. Reggie Jackson may or may not come back tonight. We'll check on that. I think it's a conditioning thing. And typically, like the next game after the conditioning, like they usually play. So I would guess he's going to play, and I assume we haven't projected in. We'll check that in a second. But you kind of touched on it there, Curtis. We'll talk about Ibaka being, projecting well, but also being fragile. And we saw Marcus Morris shine. They gave him a minutes bump, and he's like the guy. He's enjoying this, man. He's like the guy now on the Clippers.
Yeah. So there's three scorers, and that's really all that matters. I mean, Terrence Mann is okay, and he's a good defensive player, so he's going to be out there, whatever. But the score, it's the offense. I got the inside view. I was sitting there behind them when they were doing the plays out and everything. I mean, everything was designed for Kennard, Morris, or Bledsoe. So and that's all Ty Lue kept focusing on, and he kept pulling over Morris and explaining some plays, and same thing with Luke. And he liked Amir Kofi, actually. Kofi was here. Remember that? Anyways, Marcus Moore, those are the guys, right? So those are the guys that can create their own shots, that can just drive to the hoop, that can shoot the three. It's Morris, it's Kennard, it's Bledsoe. And now Reggie Jackson, we have to see if he's going to be a go or not. He looked fine. He was out laughing and everything around the sideline, and everything, taking pictures of people. I think he's fine and probably good to go, but we'll see.
Yeah, we are projecting him in. For the record, Ibaka, we're looking at 40% as far as our ownership projection right now. That's as of a half hour ago. This time of this stuff of course changes. It's fluid. The closer and closer we get the lock. Ibaka is not the guy he once was. Decent fantasy point minute guy still. 0.89 is not terrible. That's fine. And he's also crazy cheap. 3.2K on DK, 4K on FanDuel. Probably a better play on DK. Just kind of looking at the price, looking at your construction and all that. Justin, what do you think of Ibaka and then Morris too? Morris, pretty solid fantasy point minute guy. This is also stuff with with George in there a good bit, and he's 0.9 this season. I imagine I can run the court IQ, but I imagine he's probably around a full point per minute with George off the court, and we saw how active he was last game. Yeah. So what do we do with this Ibaka quandary here, Justin?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky one. He could be kind of bad, but if he plays 25 minutes, he'll be fine at 3,200. So in lineups where I'm trying to get LeBron or one of these other high price studs, like I'm still willing to play him. Good stuff on Marcus Morris and those design plays. Good to see Ty Lue have a chance to design plays after spending time in Cleveland with LeBron, where he just called his own plays the entire time. So I do think Ty Lue is a pretty good coach. And Marcus Morris, his last 2 games he's played were 2 of his 3 highest usage games of the season. So I don't think there's a coincidence here. It all makes sense. It all kind of is working hand in hand. 6,300. Maybe there's some sticker shock there for some people, but like you guys touched on, there's no Paul George, there's no Hartenstein, there's no Zubac. Reggie Jackson's status is up in the air. This is a totally different team than what we saw for the first month and a half, 2 months of the season. And right now, Marcus Morris is one of your focal points. So it is what it is, and I'll definitely have shares of Morris in my pool tonight. I think he's fine.
I was looking at the roster. I'm looking at the roster here, Kirk Dees, and it's like there's no size. There's no size in the Clippers. Like when Ibaka's off the court, like who's their backup 5?
I think they're going to use Amir Coffey to like kind of. He's like lanky at least. I don't know. That's what I was envisioning, but or Marcus Morris is going to play like the 5. We've seen the Morris brothers do that before in the past. Yeah. So I mean, this game could go small real quick. Especially with Nurse likes to go small too, or at least play Siakam at the 5.
Yeah, I mean Coffey's 6'7". He's not like a huge dude, obviously, but again, their options are limited. And as far as the Toronto side, they're getting everybody back. Basically everybody at Toronto is missing. I guess we can kind of sort of run through it, I suppose. Take a peek. Yeah, FEV is back. Oh no, Scotty Barnes is questionable, but Anunoby's available, Birch is available, Precious Achua is available. And, some of these guys are priced up in the absence of all their players. So there's really nobody appealing. I know Pascal Siakam probably still gets his 40 minutes. I suppose like you can have him in your tournament pool and things like that. But Kirkies, I'm not enthralled with Toronto much at all. I don't think I'm playing anybody in Toronto. I think that's the plan.
Yeah, I mean, but I think they make good runbacks. Like if you're correlating your lineups tonight at all. I think this game has the potential to be really good. And so I think Siakam would be the guy. I think Gary Trent Jr.'s price is fine. He put up 35 points against Philly, played 41 minutes. Nurse is going to nurse. So yes, they have more bodies available, but how much of a difference is that going to really make? It's going to make a little difference for sure. I mean, I don't think we're going to see that 40-minute upside that we see, but we certainly might see 38, 37. Which certainly could be enough. So I think these guys aren't obviously the best point per dollar plays, but I think in tournaments they make sense, especially correlating.
Justin, I'm kind of looking at our ownership stuff. Like we have Trent projected at 9% on DK and everybody else at like 1% or less for the record. And it just sort of makes sense. If Scotty Barnes doesn't play, who's questionable, like I'm not sure if one player is elevated. It's probably like a few minutes thrown to Watanabe, a few extra minutes to Speed McKay, looking a few minutes for, Achua and guys like that aren't really projecting well enough to matter, if they get 4 or 5 extra minutes. That's sort of my thought process there. Do you see anything if Barnes happens to be out, or is anything in general as far as Toronto?
I think you could take a closer look if Barnes is out, but I think Kirk pretty much nailed it. These guys are tournament runbacks pretty much, in lineup builds with it's pretty high prices there. Scotty Barnes almost 9K is something I didn't think I'd see this season, but he's been great. I mean, Van Fleet's super expensive. They're run backs. That's it. I'm not really playing any of these guys by themselves, to be honest with you.
All right, let's move on then. Talk about the next game. This next game would be Atlanta in Cleveland, 218.5. It's a total Cleveland on the back half of a back-to-back. Cleveland is a 2-point favorite here. As far as the Cleveland side, of course, Rubio done for the year, ACL. That's awful. They're without Garland still. They're without Sexton. So their point guard is still essentially non-existent. They did trade for Ricky Rubio. Rajon Rondo, double R got me. I don't believe he's going to be available tonight. Pangos, I presume, is once again their point guard, at least in name this evening. They are getting Jarrett Allen back tonight from conditioning. As far as the Atlanta side, they're getting Lou Williams back, which can be kind of interesting. Maybe he's super, super cheap on DK. I think it's an interesting 3K dart if you want to go there. Bogdanovich and Dang are still out, as is DeLon Wright, as is Collins, as is Herter, as is TLC, as is Gallinari. All right, it's the Trae Young show, basically. The Trae Young and Clint Capella show against Cleveland. Pretty solid defense. Their defense gets bolstered with the presence of Jarrett Allen coming back. Allen and Mobley really, really tough defensively, of course. Kirk Dees, I'm throwing it to you. Atlanta. Start with Atlanta first. Trae Young, I think, is interesting tournament play, if nothing else, right?
Yes. So, I mean, it is the Trae Young show. He's 11-5 on DraftKings, which is crazy to see. But, you know, there is not much of a team behind them. They're missing a lot of guys still. So, you know, you could expect him, you know, he had 40% usage in 33 minutes in his last game against Chicago. He didn't shoot the greatest. It was only 2 from 7 from 3, 10 for 23 from the field. Certainly could correct that tonight, you know, and pay off that price. So he's definitely a tournament play. Capella doesn't, you know, it was nice to see that he got 30 minutes in the last one. It's usually, you know, he looked so bad in the game before that. When I rostered him, unfortunately, he had a good first half, and then they basically got benched in the second half. But it was nice to see him bounce back with a nice 30 minutes. So, and I just don't see much competition. You know, they don't really have any big guys. So I think as many minutes as he can play, he's going to get in this situation. Lewis scares me about the conditioning for sure, because he hasn't played any big minutes at all this season, really. So, and I don't know if he had COVID and what his situation was. So I think he's scary, but like we all envision like Lou Williams getting buckets, right? Like doing his thing, but like I think conditioning really matters for a guy like Lou Williams who needs to have his shot working for him for sure. So I think there's a lot of, like you said, fragility there in that one. Cam Reddish, they've been overplaying this guy, I think, like, and, you know, he's been hurt before that, you know, but he's been playing tons of minutes. So his price has come up. I kind of worry about that. I'm worried about maybe them limiting him a little bit, you know, but I just don't really know, to be honest. But my favorite play out of all the guys is Capella. I can definitely get behind some 3K Lou on DraftKings and just hope for the best, but understand that there's still risk there, even though he's min price.
Just want to mention, as far as Capella, he played 17 minutes ish. The last game. He played the entire third quarter. He played 30 minutes, no minutes in the fourth. It was just a blowout. So, like, I think there is a ceiling to Capella to play 34, 35, 36 minutes this game. I think that's possible. And the Lou Williams wing, it's really like a DK thing where he's 3K. And also worth noting on Trae Young, he's 9.7 on FanDuel. 9.7 on FanDuel is a much, much more appealing price than his DK price, which is 11.5. Justin, jump in here. The Hawks, what do you have for me?
Yeah, price discrepancies between sites is the biggest takeaway from this game, and you pretty much covered most of that. But also Cam Reddish, cheaper, was like 900 to 1,000 cheaper on FanDuel. So I like Reddish on FanDuel. Don't know if I want to pay on DK for him, where there's a ton of other options. I think I agree that Lou Williams is a large field tournament play for DK. You know, see what happens. He's a high usage guy. We know who Lou Williams is. And Capella's price is fine. You know, both sites. I mean, it's warranted. If he gets that 35 to 36 minutes, you know, it doesn't matter if Prime Shaq or Wilt Chamberlain's down low. He has a chance to double and get a couple blocks. He might fall out of those games though. But you're right. The flip side of that is Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen are both really good defensively, and when they're both on the court together, the Cavs are really good defensively. So having both of them back definitely bolsters the inside there. So like Trae Young, much, you know, at 9.7 on FanDuel, I'm sure he'll garner more ownership over there, but he's been really good, especially without John Collins and most of these other wing players on Atlanta.
Justin, what do you like in the Cavs, if anything?
I don't mind Mobley. You know, Jarrett Allen back kind of makes me pump the brakes on Kevin Love, who's been exceptional when he's had a couple of opportunities per minute wise. I mean, he's like 1.5 fantasy points per minute realm area.
He's
or
like
something like
137, but it's
Something like
awesome.
that.
Yeah, he's just been incredible. Yeah.
So, I'm reluctant to play Kevin Love with Jared Allen back. Jared Allen's still over 10K on DraftKings, which is crazy. If I read that correctly, I swear I didn't have any drinks today. Yeah, 10-5 on DraftKings. I mean, you just can't play him at 10-5 in my opinion. Although he's having a great season. So pretty much, it's Mobley for me. And, I'm curious the next week or two how Rajon Rondo gets like factored into this equation here. It's going to be interesting.
He's probably useful until Garland comes back, whenever that's going to happen. By the way, breaking news, you were right, Justin. 0 for 3. We were all wrong. Jimmy Butler is playing.
Kirk did whisper that.
Tried to tell you that 10 minutes ago, but you weren't.
Oh,
receptive.
well, yell at me if I didn't hear you. I apologize. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not breaking news. That was 10 minutes ago. I guess I'm a little behind time, but yeah. All right.
I also saw you I think you just tweeted out that we're breaking down the slate too. Is that about 10, 15 minutes behind too?
Well, some stragglers. Some people
Okay.
they get home from work, whatever they gotta take a shower or grab some dinner. Who knows what they're up to?
Got him.
Maybe
Gotta remind him. I think Kevin Pangos is the one that could benefit in this situation after being a horrible play the other night in 24 minutes. The minutes are there for him. Like they need a point guard, right? Like he's gonna play, I think. And I think if having Jared Allen and the combo with Mobley back should create at least a bunch of assist opportunities for him. If he does drive, I think it's, maybe now that gets that first start opening jitters away, give him another chance is what I'm saying. Run it back this game tonight. I think it's a better matchup for him against Trae Young. So I could see him being fine tonight at that price.
3-5 on DK. You like that? Like he's kind of bad. Like so far what we've seen him, he's been bad, but like if he's going to have the ball in his hands, yeah, I suppose 0.64 fantasy points per minute in the season, he's in play. He's cheap enough. And like you said, what are we projecting for him? Mid-20s? Yeah, 25 minutes for him. Yeah, he's got to be in the pool. I don't know I'm not excited about it, but if he ends up my roster, I'm not angry.
Okoro too. He played horrendous in his last game, but go right back to him tonight.
Yeah, he was on my best lineup last night that I would have appreciated more. And he had like a back-to-back like 3 in like 30-second span or something like that. Besides that, he did nothing last night. He was just and typically he played a pile of minutes, and I expect the minutes will be there once again this evening. We got anything else here, boys? We're moving on. I think we're moving on.
Yes,
we are. San Antonio, Memphis, 227 is the total. Memphis is a 6-point favorite here. Kirk Dees, I'll just throw it to you. Talk to me about the Memphis side. What do you have for me?
All right, so this game is kind of interesting too, because the Grizzlies have been kind of a fun team to watch, which Luch alluded to before. He likes a lot of these players. They've got good chemistry and whatnot. They played a pretty decently fast pace, but the thing that's great is that the Spurs have been really high paced team this year. They're top 3 in pace this season. They've just turned it on, and a lot of that's been DeJounte, but Derek White is pushing the pace too. So DeJounte being out doesn't scare me very much. So I think there's some value to be had here in this team. I think, Luch said, Desmond Bane is kind of underrated player in the NBA at this point, getting a boatload of minutes, and they're completely safe with Dylan Brooks being out. They just need him. They need his scoring. They need his shooting from 3. So I like him. Obviously, Jock could be one of the top studs on the slate tonight. You're getting a discount. You're getting you're getting a $1,900 discount off of Trae Young to John Morant. Is that correct tonight? That's all
right.
Yeah. So, and a guy who just put up 66 DK points against the Lakers, 48 the game before. He's cruising right now. So he's in play. Kyle Anderson bounced back. I get the little bit of a old team narrative. Maybe, it may not be the revenge narrative, but maybe he's in a good mood tonight. It's kind of like the fresh haircut narrative. It's the, played for pop narrative. Like he's friends, sees all his old friends. He's back. He's in the game. Maybe he plays pretty well at 5K. Jaren Jackson Jr. I can always get behind, and he can always tank my lineups. It's I'm good with him. You just know there's always risk there, but I like all these guys. And then we can get into some of the Spurs.
Yeah, Justin, feel free to add anything you want there. And worth noting, as far as the San Antonio side, we get there. The only guy out for them is DeJounte Murray. Walker is available tonight. Memphis Mincing, Melton is the big one. Well, Brooks is the big one, then Melton as well. Some other fringe guys like John Conchar and Xavier Tillman, which makes like Brandon Clark kind of sort of somewhat interesting as a cheapy dart and large field, that kind of thing. Touch on Memphis. Anything you want to add, by all means, Justin, but for the sake of time, jump on over to the Spurs.
Yeah, no, you made the good points with Memphis. With DeJounte Murray out, we want Derek White to hopefully assume that high usage role. And he's shown 50-point upside a couple times this season for like the first year in his career. We've seen that, he's an evolving player, and without Murray, he should handle the ball more. Lonnie Walker playing, hurts a little bit, but I don't think it hurts enough. Love Derek White's price on DK. I'm willing to overpay for him in tournaments on FanDuel as well. I know Memphis has been pretty good defensively, but let's see, his 4 of his 6 highest usage games have come in the month of December's, and 2 were the last 2 games without Murray this season. So I think it makes sense. I think Derek White makes sense despite a tougher defensive matchup here. Usage trumps matchup in my opinion. So I think Derek White's a fantastic play here. I don't mind Lonnie Walker for value. Those 2 are my primary targets here. I'll have a lot of Derek White.
Our projections love Derek White tonight. And another interesting one as far as where you're shopping, $8K on FanDuel, $8K. But he's only 6'8" on DK. We're projecting for 33% ownership. 41 fantasy points is our projection. That's a monster number on that. But, if that's where he gets that, fully justifying it. We mentioned Moran a couple of times. He got a big hike in his price, but like he's been paying that up as well too. In the absence of some of those other guards, he's kind of stepping up, getting a few extra minutes, a little bit more usage thrown his way. San Antonio, what do you have to add there, Justin? Kirk Dees, as far as the Spurs, you want to double down in agreement? By the way, Scotty Barnes is not playing. He is ruled out for Toronto, so makes them a little bit more interesting. We'll see what the projections say about that. Kirk Dees, Spurs.
I like Derek White for sure. At least on DraftKings and on Yahoo 28, he's perfectly reasonable too as well. I think we can get a nice game out of him in this spot. I like this game overall, like I said. So he's there. I like Keldon Johnson, maybe like Devin Vassell, but that's about it. That's as far as I go on the Spurs. Lonnie Walker, I'll take a wait and see approach. I'm not expecting much from him. So it's Derek, it's Keldon, and then maybe a little Vassell.
All right, we'll move on to our next game in a second. Do want to mention, say hello to YouTube. What up, YouTube? Hit that like button. Do subscribe. If you just joined the show, if you happen to see my tweet like 5 minutes ago, like, oh wait, yeah, basketball. I know it's New Year's, but let's grind a little NBA tonight. Maybe you joined the show and like you missed the first half. That's possible. There's like one guy out there. You know what? Tell us you're that one guy. Tell us you're that one person. Where would you tell us that? In the Rotogrinders Discord channel. And we're enticing y'all. We're giving away 1 week free to RG Premium. All the fabulous tools that we're showing off, Devin's showing off our beautiful lineup HQ tool, ownership, all that good stuff, all the articles, all the videos, crunch time. It's too much stuff to mention, but you have access to that for a week. Have at it. Just join the conversation there. Rotogrinders.com/Discord, the live stream chat channel. It is free. It is not a premium channel. There are premium channels. That one is not premium. Join it. Let us know if you're that one guy that just saw my tweet and said, oh yeah, let's talk some basketball. All right. We're going to get your questions as well too. Don't just say hello. You can say hello by all means, but ask some questions too. Whatever we didn't talk about, what do you want us to double down on, like circle back on, reiterate? We'll do our best to knock out those questions at the end of the show. Devin is compiling them as we speak. Minnesota, no. Knicks, OKC, 207 is the total. New York is a 5-point favorite, despite the fact they are without Julius Randle tonight. No Julius Randle, no Nerlens Noel. Evan Fournier is questionable. The OKC side, we have SGA questionable with his ankle/tanking. Kendrick Williams is questionable with his ankle. Josh Giddey is out for health protocol reasons. They are getting Poku back. Our JRE is still out for OKC. All right, I'll throw it to you, Kirk Dees. As far as New York, how interesting has New York become? Good matchup, of course, against OKC. Their top guy and Randall being out, they generally run pretty tight rotations. Is it Kemba season again? Maybe, possibly. Obi Toppin? Is it Obi Toppin season once?
It's definitely Obi Toppin season. But Kemba for sure. I like going back to Kemba in this spot. I mean, we have to like some of these Knicks here. You're taking out Julius Randle, who's just a massive usage player, just loves to take every shot, loves to try to snag every board he can. So there's a lot of production to be had. I think it's pretty clear at this point that Kemba or Alec Burks probably shouldn't be played to get together. It should probably be one or the other. We saw in the last game that, he let Burks just go crazy with the bench, with the second unit, and he benched all these guys because they were playing terrible against Detroit, and Burks goes absolutely bananas. It's a good bounce. In theory, it's a good spot for Kemba to come back and make a strong showing here tonight. He's certainly, you want to look at players that are certainly can put up, can get their own shot, that can score and put up a lot of fantasy points and pick up this usage. Kemba's one of them. Kemba could bust for sure. He could play terrible. He could not be engaged, all that. He gets benched. So play some Alec Burks too. But Obi is going to get a bunch of minutes. They just need him to fill in that gap from the power forward position. I think Mitch Robb is starting to play better. Seems like a good game against OKC. They don't really, he should be able to rebound a ton. OKC is 29th in opponent blocks per game. That's how Mitchell Robinson has good fantasy games, right? Is when those blocks, at least on FanDuel and Yahoo, start adding up. Manuel Quickly is in play too. Like probably should be one of Kemba, Quickly, or Burks. But I'm going to sit here and just name every player besides Taj Gibson and say that I like them on the Knicks. So let's hear what you guys say.
Yeah, I'll bring in Justin in a second. Obviously, I did note I pulled up the court IQ. You kick off Randall off the court. The two biggest usage bumps. I'm not going to count Damian Dotson. Are Alec Burks and Kemba Walker. Alec Burks gets a 3.1% increase as far as usage. Kemba Walker 2.8%. Just worth noting in their fantasy points. We've seen Burks this season per 36, 8 more FanDuel fantasy points. That's pretty good, obviously. Another one, depending on where you're shopping, Kemba 7K on DK, but 6K on FanDuel. I think is a really stronger play over there on FanDuel. You can certainly play him on DK as well. Justin, your thoughts as far as New York? Give me a good Obi Toppin take. Pretty good fantasy point minute player in the season, 1.09 specific to FanDuel. We're projecting 24 minutes for him. I don't know if that's enough. He probably can get more. He definitely can get more. He definitely can get less. Well, what's your read in this situation?
Yeah, anytime you're playing a G League team and you're going to get 24 minutes, I think you have to keep him in the pool. And kind of like Kirk was saying, I could sit here and say I like pretty much everybody on this team. If I'm multi-entering, 100 lineups, I want shares of most of these guys, and I'm just setting some build rules accordingly so you don't get clumped too much here. Kemba, is this considered a revenge game? He never actually played for the Thunder, but if you're into the narrative street here, since it's the New Year's, maybe
was he DFA'd or something? What was he done? That's the wrong sport. What was they just wait? I think they waived him, right? Is that what happened? Or I can't remember.
I don't know, but regardless, and maybe this is my problem because I can't remember. You need a short-term memory when you're a tournament player. So you want to just forget that he went for 40 and then 76 and then combined for like 20 across his last two games. So let's try to put that in the past here. This game should be competitively bad, if I'm nice in saying that. So what about RJ Barrett? 1%, he's not, hasn't really been good. He's frustrating to roster. I don't think he's a phenomenal basketball player, and his data might not show up in court IQ, but how often has he played without Julius Randle and some of these other guys that are off? So, take some of the data with a grain of salt, I suppose. And what would be better than ending 2021 with an RJ Barrett ceiling game?
I'd feel better if Fournier was out just to kind of condense stuff. Yeah, and he's currently questionable, but I got all these guys for the record. I feel better. I feel better about Burks if Fournier was out. I feel better about Topin just because he's a body that can play 25, 30 minutes or something like that. OKC, I think it's well, if SGA plays, if he doesn't play, it obviously matters a ton. Well, this is the one we actually have the if then for here, Kirk D's. And I think it's pretty clear if SGA doesn't play, we saw Ty Jerome go nuts last game, and these sites have not corrected the price under that specific circumstance. At least DK hasn't. He's 6K on FanDuel, whatever. 4K on DK. Like he's like borderline serviceable either way, but we're projecting 29 DK points if SGA does not go, which would obviously be appealing. What do you have for me for OKC here, Kirk D's? Is that basically it? You can play Dort, of course, gets a usage bump as well too. But otherwise, they just play
I
a bunch
would really
of
like
dudes
to know who Dort guards tonight too, on the Knicks. That would be
Best
interesting.
guess?
I don't know. I could see him I could see him doing Kemba. I could see him doing RJ Barrett. I don't really know, to be honest, but what are you thinking?
I was thinking the same thing, and I was like, I'm gonna ask these guys because I don't really know either.
Yeah, you know what? Like from a build, a body like length and athleticism, it would make sense to be Barrett, I think. But he's been the worst out of those scorers on the team this season. Like Fournier's been pretty bad, and the other food poisoning thing and whatever. But RJ Barrett's probably been the least efficient of the bunch. So I don't know. Maybe he just shares time and it's a wash, and maybe we're better off not thinking about it. I don't know.
You got a thought there as far as OKC? Is that basically what I said, or you have anything you want to expand on it as far as the
Andrew
SGA
Wiggins'
situation?
brother? Andrew Wiggins' brother?
Is that his brother? I don't know. I feel like you're making that up. Is that a chop fact, or is that for real?
That's a chop fact for sure. Chop told me that one, so I don't know. But Aaron Wiggins played great, and he's actually played pretty decent, and the minutes have been there for 3 games plus. So I don't mind that. We'll see what happens. I mean, obviously, we have to see if Shea's in or out. So
Wiggins has been good. I've been following OKC pretty closely because whenever Dort or Giddey is out, I just kind of crap on the SGA overs because he literally just tries to take every shot when Dort or Giddey are out. But Wiggins was getting so much work in that. I think it was the Sacramento game, and that's the game he played the least amount of minutes in over his last 3.
The guy who chucks on OKC, who just steals every shot, is Dort. He thinks he's like Michael Jordan. He really does. It's amazing. I mean, he went 3 for 18 the other night against Phoenix.
Is that bad?
Yeah, I mean, that's not, if you're not compared to what the Celtics did in front of me. But
he must be pen pals with Dylan Brooks. I think just has that mentality.
Brooks thinks he's great too. He's another one of those guys that thinks like he should be taking every single shot. All right, we got to move on, guys. Second time, 2 games before we step aside and make way for crunch time. We do want to save some time for questions as well. Minnesota, Utah, 223 is the total. Utah is a big old favorite here, 12-point favorite versus Minnesota. As far as who's in and who's out, Minnesota expects to get Anthony Edwards back. They're still without Russell and Cat. Vanderbilt also coming back. Prince available as well too. Not sure who's going to start as their 5. We saw them dancing, depending on like one game it's Naz Reid, then Nathan Knight played really well. He earned himself a start, then he fouled out in that game, and also their prices have both kind of been bumped up a little bit. Knight, if he draws a start at 3.6, 3.8, whatever it is, kind of sort of someone interesting, I suppose. Is this another one here, Kirk Dees? It's like Edwards, is he gonna be 100%? Like how do we expect him to come back? And he's another guy, he's probably gonna take a ton of shots. Not a great matchup, obviously, but he's the last of their studs standing.
He said, and I know there was interviews that I picked up on, and I was researching before, that he's good to go and he's fine conditioning wise. So
okay,
I mean, I don't know if that's true, and I mean that's what he's saying. So I mean, I gotta trust it. I think the usage could be bananas in this game tonight. It is a matchup against Utah, but I think that's probably pretty good because he's going to be chucking from the outside. He'll drive some too as well, but I think there's just a lot of upside for him and potential, even if it is the Jazz. The thing, I had like a great lineup I got like first in pretty much everything except like the really big stuff on, like the baller on Yahoo. And I did it with Naz Reid by accident. So he was the only last spot. So I got caught slipping. I went to go get food and missed the Naz Reid wasn't starting in his first game back for Nathan Knight. And if I should have just put Nathan Knight in, but so I was like really mad at myself, but it still ended up being fine. So I avoided that one. But I mean, it's tough to want to play Naz Reid or, anyone that's going to be banging down low with Gobert, right? Like, I just don't see the massive upside. I think the upside is going to have to come from the outside, but I don't know. I could be wrong, but Edwards would be the guy. Malik Beasley is going to be chucking food from outside. I can get behind him. That's pretty much all I really want in this game. I don't mind. Obviously, we should talk about some Jazz guys too. If Ingles is out, I think that gives a little bit of a boost to Jordan Clarkson, who's already getting a boost with Conley out. Yeah, Conley out. So I like Jordan Clarkson a lot, especially in a matchup against Minnesota. And I think Gobert is it's tough to pay his price, 9,500 on
It's
DK,
exorbitant.
but it absolutely is. But I still think he's got a pretty high floor and a good ceiling tonight. He's 9,100 on FanDuel, which is better. He's probably reasonably priced on Yahoo. Let me just go check that. All right. Yeah, he's 39 on Yahoo. That's a little high for him, but that's fine. I think that's certainly playable for sure. I think he's going to beast these guys down low tonight. But the problem is whether they use him. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of the times he just doesn't get the ball.
Just want to mention, Nas played well against Utah a couple of games ago. He put up about 17 and 10, and he's a guy that like he'll hit his threes. Like he'll trail plays, just set himself up for an open three. He has that weird shot where it has like no arc on it. I'm not sure if you watched Nas Reed play much, but it goes in though. Yeah. So I think he's if he draws a start, I guess he's interesting. But I don't know if he's going to start, and I don't know when we'll even know that information in 9:00 game or something like that. Not a lot of time here, Justin. If you want to touch on Minnesota, by all means, if you have anything new to add, go for it. Otherwise, talking about Utah, and yeah, like Mitchell being back is a big deal. They said there's no minutes restriction on him. Conley being out, like Utah's not an interesting team unless people are out. Conley's out, and Ingles is questionable. Like, can Rudy Gay become interesting if Ingles is out? We saw him thrive last game. I don't know if that was an anomaly. He thrived in the absence mostly of he played, I think, O'Neal's minutes mostly. But yeah, well, Utah, what do you have for me, Justin?
I think it's a sneaky game, but Anthony Edwards, I want to touch on. I think it's a phenomenal tournament play. I came across some of those same interviews that Kirk saw, and I saw some other quotes that he said, "I'm so excited to play again. It's like I'm getting drafted, like I'm going to get drafted again. I don't think I'm going to sleep tonight before the game tomorrow." Like, he's a pretty outspoken guy, so you always love when a guy is like really wants to get on the court and play on New Year's Eve, because sometimes you just don't know. He played 100 minutes without Towns and Russell this season on Court IQ. 7% usage bump up to 35% usage. Those are monster numbers. And, you can get him at plus 1020 to score 35 real points, by the way. Just saying, it might be worth a sprinkle. Tough matchup, obviously. They're big dogs, which is scary, but he has an incredibly high ceiling, and I like Edwards quite a bit. Utah, you're right. You pretty much nailed it. I think I wish we had some more news, because Utah could get very interesting. Another name who's just very plain, typically scoring dependent, is Bogdanović, but he's been doing Bogdanović things. He's been hitting like 5 times value, plotting along, taking 14 to 16 shots a game. And if Joe Ingles is out, in addition to Mike Conley, I think Bogdan has a real shot to hit like 7x value tonight in this game environment.
All right, we got to move. Let's knock out this last game. I wish we had more time for it. Unfortunately, we don't. 227 is the total. Portland versus the Lakers, 227. Again, massive number. Lakers are 6-point favorites. They don't really blow anybody out, right? As far as Portland, Little should be available to play. Simmons is out. Simons is out. Nurkic not available. Covington not available. A lot of their bigs not available. We're expecting Larry Nance to draw the start. The Lakers, whoever matters is healthy, essentially. They did trade away Rajon Rondo. Of course, Davis has been out for a while. Kirk Dees, how much are we prioritizing this game? How much do you love this game? You like it like I love it? Lillard and Lillard and LeBron just seem like awesome spends. I don't know if LeBron's going to start at the 5. He may or may not. It may go small. It probably does, because Portland would love that, and they kind of accommodate each other's game. But give me what you have as far as this game.
Yeah, I like a lot of these games tonight. So I want to just reiterate the fact that, we didn't even mention the thing that's sneaky about the Utah Jazz Wolves. I mean, it still has a 222.5 point total. It's got a nice total. Now, the next highest up is this one, the Blazers Lakers at 227, which you said is a monster. And then that's also tied with the Spurs Grizzlies at 227 monster. So we do have a bunch of good games to attack. This one certainly looks the most juicy. Right, for fantasy production, and the fact that some of the players that are missing, the fact that Portland just doesn't have any big mans just sets up nice for these lower priced Larry Nance and Nas Little. If Nas is, he has a banged up ankle, so he he hurt. He only got 23 minutes in the last one. Was limited, but like he had been cruising for a couple of games before that. He's kind of like a poor man's Pascal Siakam. Like he's does a little bit of everything. So he's someone I'm interested in when he's nice priced, especially on FanDuel or Yahoo. Then Dame, I think Dame is going to go bananas tonight against the Lakers. The Lakers defense is just tough. They've just been pushing the pace right now. They're first in pace. They're 29th in opponent steals. So I think it's a really good spot for, they've also been giving up a ton of threes. So Dame, I love. Norman Powell, I like. Larry Nance and Nas, I like. And then we got over to the other side on the Lakers.
All right, Justin, interest of time, man. We got some questions on layaway. Want to get as many as possible, but give me your thoughts as far as this game atmosphere, and touch on the Lakers. Do we need anything beyond LeBron? Is it just the LeBron show? Of course, you can play some Russ as well too, and we've seen Monk get going as well. But what do you have for me?
No, Kirk did a great breakdown of the Portland side. I pretty much agree with everything you said, including the hierarchy of his pecking order of who he likes over there. Like Little's price on DK quite a bit. LeBron, fantastic play. Obviously no AD. He's been playing really well. I'm out on Westbrook 10-7. Like, no, just not playing him. And these other guys, the fringy punt guys, I totally get it for large field GPP stuff. But if you're playing 1 entry or 3 entry max, there's definitely better, more consistent, safer value on the slate elsewhere.
All right, some questions to get to before we step aside and make way for crunch time. Justin, do you want Kemba or Reggie Jackson in a FanDuel tournament? Play one of them.
I want Kemba, but I understand Reggie Jackson too.
Kirk Dees, do you feel comfortable playing 3 Blazers? I guess that's Powell, Nance, and Little. Can you play all 3 of those guys?
Yeah, they're gonna get all of them are gonna get big minutes. You can. I like the idea of just playing Nas and Nance together. If you're, Powell is kind of hit or miss in my opinion. I think he's fine, but you want that ceiling. I think Dame is the one guy you want. But
I think D-Dot is trolling us. I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize. We got to go. D-Dot is trolling us, asking for Taj Gibson at 5.5K. I wouldn't play him in a stack. I wouldn't play him a la carte. No, we're not playing Taj Gibson tonight. Get out of town. Justin, do we think Watanabe still gets run tonight? I think he gets some run, but not enough run. We're not playing Watanabe, are we?
Well said. No, I'm not personally, no.
What do you have for me, Kirk Dees? Thoughts on Eric Gordon for a tournament, DK tournament?
I just want to say that we need a bell, an alert one that goes off when the mush gets identified. So we identified the Dean Mush play tonight. It's Taj Gibson. You got to play him.
I thought it was Yuta Watanabe. You can have them both. Neither one will be in winning lineups. I can promise you that. Not happening.
Oh, you're just making it even better now.
Do you have a favorite game stack, Kirk Dees?
I mean, it's low. How can you not load up on this Heat Rockets game? I know it's going to be all chalk, but like the Rockets aren't going to be chalk. So just load up on this game. That's my favorite.
Justin, thoughts on Jalen Noel? Do we like Jalen Noel there for Minnesota? Tournaments, obviously.
Not really. I mean, he could have a game, but I'm not going there. But I'm definitely. It's a great night to have a couple lineups because the first game, like you said, Kirk, locks at 7. A lot of interest in that game. But depending on how that news breaks in that Utah game, you can have some GPP winners there at 9 Eastern too.
Pick one of these 2 games, Justin. Which do you prefer? Memphis versus San Antonio or Portland versus the Lakers as far as a game stack?
On DK, that's tough. I like there's more players you can play in the Memphis game, but I think LeBron is the highest ceiling. Nasir Little is Nasir Little is a good price on DK. Nance up at 61. I totally understand. You're gonna have to pay on the Portland side to play some of those guys, especially Dame. I don't know what he is on FanDuel, but he's 10 something on DK like he typically is.
Shout out to Slambert 31 in the Rotogrinders Discord. You won yourself 1 week free of RG Premium. If you happen to already have RG Premium, you can get it added on to your current subscription. Producer Devin, I presume, will contact you, or you contact him, RG producer. You guys will work it out. We'll figure it out. Kirk Dees, give me one guy. Give me your guy tonight. Who we locking in? Who we feel good about?
Oh my God, you really did. I wasn't ready for it.
Give me a guy. There's not one guy you love.
It's Dame tonight. This is a Dame time game for sure.
It's got to be like an ESPN game or something, right? I would imagine that's national TV. Portland versus the Lakers on a Friday night. New Year's. No, I'm not sure. We got to step aside and get out of here. Make way for crunch time. If you guys are premium members, you know how that goes down. Do want to thank you for watching the hit that like button before you step aside and get out here on the old YouTube. Subscribe, turn on the notifications, join the Discord as we keep talking about. And maybe that's going to be you next week that wins yourself one week free of our RG Premium. If y'all are having going out for New Year's, please be safe, be smart, enjoy yourself. And we'll see you guys next year. That was Kirk Dees. That was Devin producing. And that was Justin. That was basketball. I was Dean. We're out of here. Butler, good luck tonight.